Central Coast Mariners 1, Sydney FC 3. The Mariners' undefeated run finally comes to an end at the hands of the Sky Blues in what was a pretty dramatic night of football overall at Industry Group Stadium. A busy schedule for the Mariners in recent times, and as it does still go on, we've got a game on Tuesday coming up in the AFC Cup. And you get to say that maybe that finally took its toll, the busy schedule. You can't just put it down to that. I thought Sydney FC, with a better team tonight, they deserve to get the 3 points, especially with how well they started. And yeah, man, just like a really deflating result for the Mariners. I mean, just considering how well we've been playing of late, and it really started to fall apart in this game. I don't think we were terrible. I don't think we were awful by any stretch. Sydney just really weren't making many mistakes in this game, and they ended up coming away on top. It was one of those off days for the Mariners. And I don't think, look, a takeaway, the overall takeaway, I think, from this game is that it is a disappointing result, but I think it will end up being a one-off result here for the Mariners. I don't think this will, kickstart a run of losses or anything like that. I'd be very surprised if that was to happen. But it's sort of similar to what happened last year. If you remember, Mariners lost at home. There's a heavy defeat at home last season. Of course, Mariners obviously going on to win the championship, and it could almost be a similar situation where, again, just home against Sydney FC, something about that fixture just seems to be a bit tricky for us. Looking at the lineup for this game, it's quite interesting. Ali Kowal dropped to the bench. Miguel DePizio brought into the starting lineup, which I don't mind. Ryan Edmondson maintaining his place in the starting lineup for the third time in just over a week. And aside from that, it was pretty consistent. No Storm Brew into the side, but we'll talk about that. That's probably one of the big debates in the side at the moment in terms of, who's our best starting right back at the moment. Is it Mikael Docker? Is it Storm Brew, who I thought was actually really impressive in that second half? That's the one I'd love to hear from you guys from, man. I mean, there's plenty of options in terms of whether we shuffle around that midfield area. Obviously, no Wilson at the moment. No Harry Steele, Brad Tapp out with injuries as well. Just Dylan Winsley-Hall's coming back into the fray. There's a lot of work to be done here for the Mariners. Mark Jackson with plenty of headaches, I'm sure, when it comes to picking the squad. Let's talk about the game, though, man. I mean, like, straight off the bat, Sydney FC just came out firing. 4th minute, Ryan Grant scores. Some controversy over this one. I mean, was it offside? Did Fabio Gomez get a touch on the ball? To Myers, he didn't get a touch. But it was quite chaotic. And at the time, I think, I was certainly calling for offside. But it looked to Myers that probably the right decision was made. And then Anthony Caceres, just moments later, scoring against his former team, a team that he won the championship with over a decade ago. And from there, you almost felt like the team Mariners were just shocked. We hadn't been in this position, 2 goals down like this for quite some time. And it was only in the 20th minute where Sydney FC scored their 3rd goal. Dan Hall, unfortunately, putting the ball in his own net, giving Sydney a 3-goal lead and a platform to control the game, to set up, to defend, and credit to the Sky Blues at the back who weren't giving Mariners much. Angel Torres with a couple moments here and there bursting forward. And it was Torres who got one back for the Mariners in the 56th minute. And, that was off the back of some of those changes that we made at halftime. It was interesting. I saw, I think it might have been after the 2nd or 3rd goal. I think it was after the 2nd goal. I saw Mark Jackson absolutely giving it, talking passionately, shall we say, to Christian Theoharis. And of course, we did see Christian Theoharis alongside Mikael Docker. Those 2 right-sided players substituted at the break, which was interesting. And I liked the move, though, to bring on something fresh and different. Storm Roo coming on. Jing Reese was brought into the game as well. I thought he had a decent appearance in that second half, provided a bit more threat and a bit more forward thrust for the Central Coast Mariners. But it wasn't enough in the end, man. I thought, considering that we scored in the 56th minute, over half an hour to go, I was hopeful, man. I mean, the vibes in the stadium were fantastic. Over 11,000 people. Great vibes at Industry Group Stadium tonight, man. And I thought, man, it was going to be one of these magic nights. Coming back from 3-0 down, potentially to go and win it 4-3. I mean, imagine that. But it wasn't to be in the end. And again, I'm hoping that this result is just going to be a small blip in sort of the overall course of the season. And it's remarkable to think that this is our first loss since all the way back in round 4, the first 4 rounds of the season when we lost the first 4 games of the campaign. It's the first loss since then. So it's been a remarkable run. So, look, if you step back, look, obviously the night's disappointing. If we step back and look at the bigger picture, we're still in a fantastic position. We're still, in a comfortable position where we can go forward and finish in a good spot in the top 6. There is a big conversation around the top place on the ladder now. Wellington Phoenix getting a win 2-0 against West United earlier today means that they extend their lead on the top of the table, which is just remarkable. Wellington having a phenomenal season. Mariners now level on points on the ladder alongside Macarthur after they defeated Melbourne Victory. We saw some big results today, didn't we? Brisbane Roar defeating Melbourne City 5-1. Quite remarkable. So plenty of drama, and look, you're going to have games like this here and there, man, where there's some upsets. Because you're going to say this was an upset, right? I mean, Sydney, I'm not sure, predicted by many to defeat an informed Mariners side here. Having a look at the stats as well on Google, I mean, possession pretty even. Mariners ending up with 12 shots, only 5 of those on target. Sydney FC 10 shots, 4 of those on target. Look, I don't like to talk about referees much, but I did think tonight was one of those nights where Mariners were pretty hard done by some of the decisions. Multiple times where I thought Sydney FC players could have received yellow cards for a variety of reasons. Some professional fouls in the first half that weren't the players weren't booked for. There were numerous occasions where Sydney FC players were kicking the ball away, throwing the ball away. Wasn't booked at all. Happened many times. I'm not gonna blame the result on the referee though. And there was a controversial moment in that second half. Was it a handball? I have to go back and look at it again. Looking at the replays and everything, I can see why they wouldn't award it a handball. I mean, like, it's the interpretation of the rules is so like murky and messy. It's just you just don't know now. To me, that should be a handball. He's making the Sydney defender's making his body bigger by having his arm out to the side like that. Yes, I could see that the idea, the referee's sort of belief there, I'd imagine, would be that the arm was by the side. But I'm not sure, man. I mean, it struck the arm. It's away from the body. It stopped the ball moving forward into a dangerous area. It's a tough one, but this was an off night for the Mariners when it came to the refereeing decisions. But again, I want to make it clear that I'm not blaming the result on that by any stretch of the imagination. Sky Blues, as I mentioned earlier, I think deserved to get the win. I did think they were better on the night. Want to touch on some of the substitutes as well. Ronald Barcelos, showed some moments here and there, but I feel like he's still settling into A-League football. He's showing that he's got the attributes there. There's some pace, some excitement, but just needs to, polish up the final product with the shooting and the crossing and all that kind of stuff. Ryan Edmondson as well, as I mentioned earlier, this is, his 3rd consecutive start since arriving at the club. And it's quite clear that, Mark Jackson really believes in Edmondson. Obviously, he'd worked with Ryan Edmondson over in the UK. And look, we can just see tonight, I mean, the fact that both pardon me, Ali Kowal and Jing Reese both benched, and it was Edmondson who started up top alongside DiPizio. I'm curious to see how Edmondson goes throughout the course of the season. He's a player who showed some moments tonight, some bursts of pace down the wing, but really didn't get many opportunities at all. I don't know if he had many strikes on goal. He's tall, he's strong. So, look, he's got the attributes to be a decent striker. You feel like the more he settles into his new surroundings here in Australia, I believe that, I'm excited for what he could produce for the Mariners, and, the likes of, Torres and Thea Harris and Nisbet providing for him. There's potential there. Hopefully it does work out, though. Look, big week coming up for the Central Coast Mariners. We've got the AFC Cup semi-final of the ASEAN zone coming up on Tuesday against Phnom Penh Crown. Hopefully Mariners can get the win there and go through to potentially face Macarthur SC, which would be quite interesting to face an Australian opposition in the AFC Cup tournament. And then our next A-League game, man, Western Sydney Wanderers. So, look, it doesn't get any easier. Wanderers have been one of the top teams in the competition this year. Have had some up and down results recently, but have a class squad, man. They got Brandon Borrello expected to return from injury. So it's going to be another huge night for Central Coast Mariners. Would be great to bounce back with a win, maintain our position in the top 2. That would be fantastic. A disappointing result overall for Mariners fans. Hopefully, we bounce back next week. Thanks so much for tuning in, guys. I appreciate it very much. My name is Lockie. This is Coastwood Football, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.